I will call this meeting to order. It's the regularly scheduled meeting of the Transportation Public Works Committee this day, October 25th, 2016. I'm Councilman Reich. I'll be chairing today's committee. I'm joined by my colleagues on the committee, including Council members Yang, Glidden, Palmisano, Bender, and Gordon. We are a full complement of the committee and may proceed with today's business. Before we get to the 8 items, I want to give a special shout out to some citizen activists that are here with us today from the Montessori School. And they're here petitioning us with their issue regarding a street closure. I heard that they're very professional, very persuasive, and yes, darn cute. So thank you for coming in. I guess you had great interaction with their council members, and now they're really hamming it up here on cable TV. They're naturals. But thank you for your participation today, and your issue is duly noted, and we'll be recording your comment on the public record with the clerk. So thank you. On the other items today, agenda, we have 8, including public hearings and 1 discussion item. The remainder are consent. I'll go through the consent items. Committee members can pull any item for further deliberation. Item 4 on the consent agenda is the Franklin Avenue East, West Broadway Avenue pedestrian improvements grant agreement with Hennepin County. And it's a series of actions to proceed with that work as described. Item 5 is the Hennepin Avenue reconstruction project request for proposals for engineering design services. A very early step in the process to proceed with that project. Item 6 is the parking ramp elevator modernization project contract amendment with Moricon Construction Company for the amount listed. Item 7 is the bid for supervisory control and data acquisition system. And that system will be the amount of $418,363.94 to help us with some monitoring. That'll be very important for the division. Any questions or comments on those items? Seeing none, I will move all items as described. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting nay. That carries. We can now proceed with today's public hearings, of which we have 3. Beginning with item 1 regarding the sanitary sewer service availability charges, often known as SAC charges. Good morning, Director.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee, and citizen activists. I would like to introduce Katrina Kessler to provide information on the sanitary and sewer service availability charges. Katrina is...
Good morning. I'm Katrina Kessler, Director of Surface Water and Sewers, and we're here today to open the public hearing for 1 property that is participating in the SAC deferral program and has made 2 payments, but is late on the last payment that the city made on their behalf, and so we would like to open the public hearing for that action.
Any questions for staff? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. It's public hearing number 1, sanitary sewer service availability charges as described in the staff report. Anyone wish to speak? No one signed up. Anyone wish to speak? I will close the public hearing and move the item as submitted. Any further conversation? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting nay. That carries. We can now go to the second public hearing, which is sidewalk repair and construction assessments. Director Hutchinson.
Mike Kennedy, who will introduce both public hearings number 2 and 3, sidewalk repair construction assessments, and as well number 3, which follows.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. Mike Kennedy, Director of Transportation, Maintenance, and Repair for the City of Minneapolis Public Works Department. Today, we're here for the public hearing for our sidewalk condemnation program for the year 2015. Public Works completed the annual condemnation and repair of public sidewalks in 2015. Property owners had the option of contracting for the repairs themselves or allowing the city to complete the work. An assessment letter was sent to property owners, which included advising them to contact Public Works sidewalk inspections in writing if they had an issue with their assessment. They also had the opportunity to attend a administrative hearing whereby they could bring their case to a mere administrative hearing officer. We had 4 people do that back in September. The properties on the list to be assessed, dated September 13, 2016, as on file with the City Engineer Special Assessment Office, had sidewalk repair and construction work done during 2015 by the city's sidewalk contractors. The amount to be assessed as special assessment principal is the cost of the work plus sidewalk overhead charge. The sidewalk overhead charge is 10% of the cost of the work with a cap of $50. The total principal amount in the proposed assessments on the list of properties to be assessed less prepayments received and adjusted by the administrative hearing officer is $1,073,485.58.45. Assessments of more than $1,500 would be collected over 10 years. 150 to 1,500 collected over 5 years, and 150 or less would be paid the first year. Information was provided to property owners and taxpayers on how persons may prepay the assessments without full interest, so if they so choose. So today, our recommendation is passage of resolution adopting the assessments of the total amount of $1,073,458.45, levying the assessments, adopting the assessment roll, and certified copies of the assessment roll be transmitted to the Hennepin County Auditor. We can answer questions as needed. We've got staff here to do that if needed.
Thank you. Any questions per the presentation? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. Anyone signed in? Anyone signed in? Anyone wish to come forward? Anyone wish to come forward? Seeing none, I will close public hearing number 2, sidewalk repair and construction assessments, and move passage of the resolution adopting the levying of assessments and adopting the assessments roll for repair and construction of public sidewalks per today's presentation. Any conversation regarding that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting nay. That carries. Thank you. And I believe it's Mr. Kennedy for item 3.
Again, this is a similar public hearing in action for snow removal and snow and ice removal from public sidewalks. Each winter season, Public Works enforces the city's sidewalk shoveling ordinance. Property owners who had snow and ice removed by the city were billed for the work, had the option of paying the bill or have the cost added to their property taxes as an assessment. For those choosing the latter, this action is to proceed with the process for collecting those assessments. An assessment letter was sent to the property owners, which included advising them to contact Public Works in writing. Sidewalk inspections would contact them to discuss the concerns. If they can't resolve that, the property owner was advised that they could go to appear before an administrative hearing officer. We had, I think, 8 people choose that option, and some adjustments were made and others were forwarded as is by the administrative hearing officer. The assessments proposed in this action include any adjustments by that. The properties on the list to be assessed dated September 23rd, 2016, is on file with City Engineer Special Assessment Office, had the snow and ice removal work done by the city. The amount to be assessed as special assessment principal is the cost of the removal work. The total principal of the proposed assessments on the list of properties to be assessed is $51,926.59. The assessments will be collected in their entirety on the 2017 real estate tax statements with interest. The interest rate will be 2.5%. So our recommendation today is passage of a resolution adopting the assessments as enumerated earlier, levying the assessments, adopting the assessment roll, and certified copies of the assessment roll be transmitted to the Hennepin County Auditor. Again, we have staff here to answer questions as needed, and that's my presentation.
Thank you. Any questions per the presentation? Seeing none, I will open the public hearing. We do have people signed in. I will take them in order and then call upon additional people if they wish to come forward as well. Starting with Linda Lowry, please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Go ahead.
Please do.
Okay. I received a letter stating that my sidewalk needed to be cleaned. Okay, they were dirty. I had tried to work on them previously, but I was having a problem to clean them. So when I got the letter, I did do the regular sidewalk. But the city, I live on the 26th Avenue side, and the city had took part of the street and made like a trail there. So my understanding, that normally the city take care of that, the trails and whatnot. So when they put that in there, they sent us a letter that they were going to be doing our sidewalks and that we were to pay for that. Like it would go on our property tax or whatever. And so, but as far as I know, we never got anything stating that we were responsible for the snow removal on those trails when they put them in. So when I did the sidewalk, I did the regular sidewalk all the way to the curb and whatnot, like usual. Then I get a bill that's stating that I didn't do nothing to them.
Thank you. I think that does bring up an issue. We do have a new trail that was put in for the 26th Avenue reconstruction project, and so it's a new situation out there. Is there any sort of comment? I'll have staff comment based on your testimony and give us some answers.
Do I sit down?
Yeah, please. Yeah, thank you. I think we got your situation. Thank you. We got your situation well understood. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Kennedy.
Mr. Chair, Ms. Lowry did appear before the administrative hearing officer. She did give us a description of the concern in writing. It does not match what we just heard now. This is the first we've heard of a trail. But what she was assessed for and the work that was done was on her sidewalk, and she lives on a corner. And this is a before photo where you can see this is her sidewalk, and the sidewalk also goes this way. This is the before photo. This is another. Here's probably a more illustrative photo. Here's her sidewalk. The sidewalk is actually clear. It's the sidewalk intersection that is not clear. And the property owners are responsible to clear out to the curb on the whole sidewalk intersection, including there's a pedestrian ramp on both sides here. This has been an upgraded ramp. And so this was supposed to have been cleared. This is the work that was done by the contractor, and this is what she was charged for. I believe, if I'm not mistaken, there was an adjustment made by the administrative hearing officer, brought down some of the cost, but he felt that the cost remaining. Okay, I'm sorry about that. That's not true. There was not adjusted. It was not adjusted here. So you've got the ability, if you'd like, to consider the fact that the sidewalk was actually cleared, and it was just this SI work that was done.
Thank you for that clarification and site condition photography. So any further conversation on this? Councilmember Palmisano.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Kennedy, I'm concerned when we do these ramp upgrades, do we give the property owner any notice that now they have an additional responsibility for snow clearing? I myself live on a corner like this, and I don't believe I've ever received one. So I'm just curious if there's a process to try and educate the public about that.
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Palmisano, there is no difference before and after about the responsibility to clear the sidewalk and out to the curb at the sidewalk intersection, regardless if it was an old ramp or not.
Thank you. Councilmember Gordon.
So it sounds like you're saying that the initial assessment may have been taking into consideration that the whole sidewalk plus the corner wasn't cleared, and so some kind of adjustment might be in order because definitely some of the sidewalk was shoveled. It's just that corner that was the problem.
The assessment is the cost of the work that the contractor did to remove the snow at the sidewalk intersection. The sidewalk itself was shoveled, but the sidewalk intersection was not. This is the cost to do that work.
Okay, so it's hard to know.
According to our competitive bids.
Right, and it's hard to compare that with the cost it might have been if there was the whole sidewalk, but definitely there was a cost for them to arrive and get out there and do a portion of the work. Do they charge by hour? or by square foot?
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Gordon, we have a set rate charged by the contractor. Typically for a corner lot, it is much more than this to clear a corner lot, both sidewalks.
Okay. Well, I'd entertain some kind of adjustment, but I don't know what it should be.
I think we're about to conclude with this, and it's going to be in your favor. So, so I think there's some interest in just some lack of clarity on this situation. We'll move this one without recommendation, subject to conversation between staff and the homeowner to find a reasonable solution. They'll be in communication with the, I believe you're in Ward 4. So if Mr. Kennedy, you can check in with your council member to make sure that I get the right information when it comes to full council. So basically have a conversation to reduce the fee or eliminate it.
Mr. Chair, if I may, we will work on this particular line item of the package that you have to understand all the details behind it and make any follow-up recommendations to you and the committee prior to the council.
And hopefully this is instructive for maybe some communication moving forward, particularly where there's been a new reconstruction project where people might think, oh, there's a new condition, there's this new treatment to my street. It must be their issue. So, but that's a further policy conversation. Councilmember Glidden.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. And I was going to say something similar to just what you said, and maybe this is, I don't know what you have teed up for future meetings for us to talk about the snow and ice removal from sidewalks, but I think there are many things that the city could do to better promote our goals around this, and communication, amping up our communication is one of them. And so I would think that's sort of more the policy or kind of informal policy direction from this is we need to look at what are those ways that as an enterprise we can increase our messaging around that and clarify what's the responsibility of property owners if we're having these expectations that we want to be better in enforcing.
Well put, thank you. Any further conversation? And so we will continue with the public hearing with those signed in and anyone else who wishes to come
Mr.
forward.
Chair, if I may,
Yes.
we'd be happy to talk with Ms. Lowry afterwards.
Oh.
We think we can come up with
Okay,
talk with her and come up with something to resolve this today.
that would be good. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Moving down the line, we have Mr. Scott Engel. Please come forward, state your name and address for the record.
Council members, my name is Scott Engel. I live at 3748 19th Avenue South, and I'm a former member of the Pedestrian Advisory Committee. I was on for 5 years. I'm here not because of an assessment, but because I wanted to sort of reiterate the point that this system of relying on our citizens to shovel our sidewalks is just not working. It doesn't create a clear pedestrian path for our citizens. It's incomplete. For one, the ordinance, it doesn't get enforced in a timely manner. I don't know if you know this, but commercial properties and residential properties with more than 3 units are supposed to have their sidewalks cleared within 4 hours of a snowfall ending. Other residential properties, I think, have 24 hours, and that isn't even done. We're lucky if sidewalks are clear within 7, 10, 15, 20 days. I don't know if it even happens. It all relies on residents calling 311 and reporting properties, and I know there are so many that I cannot keep up, and I don't want to. I think other cities in the world have winter. We have it every year, and it appears we don't make any improvement on this. So I think as a disabled person, I think we talk a lot about equity in this city for people that are disabled or seniors or can't drive, children. This is something you need to work on. we don't try very hard on this issue. And after I finally got off the pedestrian advisory committee because it was so frustrating because we didn't seem to make much progress on any of these issues. And I know I worked on it all 5 years. We had Mr. Kennedy at our meetings. He knows about a lot of these suggestions that the pedestrian advisory committee submitted. And most of these actions, nothing has been done. We can do better. You just passed a complete streets policy where pedestrians are the top priority. And that just isn't the case for months at a time in the city. People are trapped in their homes because we do kind of a half-hearted effort to make sure our sidewalks are clear. Pedestrians are not the priority. Mr. Kennedy has said at several pedestrian advisory committees that they get to the sidewalks after they are done dealing with the roads. Roads are number one, alleys are second. St. Paul doesn't plow their alleys. City of Minneapolis decided they would. That was a high priority. Within 12 hours, I believe, plows come through and do the alleys in the city. There's nothing like that for sidewalks. The other piece is, one last thing is the person that spoke before me, corners. I think any of you that live on a corner realize that you can shovel all you want and then the plows come through and pile a big mound of heavy snow. And we're expecting senior citizens and disabled people or even able-bodied people to do this. I mean, it freezes into an icicle and you can't remove it, but people are getting fined for this. So this is not rocket science, I think is what I'm trying to say here, that every year, Public Works, the City Council should be working to make this better. We can do better. Other cities do it better. They communicate better. Councilmember Glidden, I think you expressed some of what I was going to say, so I'm not going to say it, except to say that you said it very eloquently. There's got to be a better communication. We had talked about at one point, you get perhaps texts or phone calls saying, move your cars. We're very concerned about people parking on the streets so we can plow the streets. At one point, we had talked about, with Mr. Kennedy, doing some sort of effort where it would be specific to sidewalks. The ordinance says you're supposed to shovel them within so many hours. That never happened. So there's lots of things that can be done, and I hope you'll take some action. The reason I'm here today is because this is the only time during the entire year that this snow and ice clearance on sidewalks comes up on your agenda. I think that's bad, and I think it's bad that this is coming up in late October. We're going to have snow here in days or weeks, and it's too late probably to deal with it for our upcoming winter. So I think we can do better. I think that's it.
Thank you for your testimony. And I will say that we're always in the spirit of doing better, and we do take our Complete Streets prioritization chart seriously. And I believe we'll be moving forward with efforts that are ongoing and perhaps even new to realize that promise. Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to note, I was trying to find it, but we did pass a staff direction about a year ago, I think, directing staff to create a pilot program for sidewalk and protected bikeway snow removal. And I believe that led to staff creating a pretty innovative way of assessing our current situation, using volunteers across the city to go out and walk and bicycle along our routes and get some baseline. To the point that Mr. Engel made, I think we all recognize that there are a lot of ways for improvement, but that was intended to lead to budget, potential budget policy changes or other policy changes that would be in service of improving our city's efforts to keep our sidewalks and bikeways clear. We also have made a few changes over the past couple of years, moving more toward having increased enforcement, of having some routes where the city is clearing snow, where we used to rely solely on property owners. So I think the points were all well made, and clearly we have room for improvement. But I did want to note that there are several things, and staff would probably do a better job of remembering those details than I'm doing right now, but several things that we've initiated in the past couple of years to improve upon this issue.
Mr. Chair, if I might add that Public Works is very aware of the concerns by the walking community. We have been hearing about them and listening carefully. We are also underway, or really ramping up now, with a winter maintenance study, which is what I believe Councilmember Bender is referring to. Understanding that there are ways that we can improve. We look forward to bringing some results back to you and the committee so that any follow-up policy discussions can be had prior to the following season.
Thank you for that. Yeah, certainly we have, do we have systems gaps? Yes. Are we filling them? Yes. I mean, are there improvements to be made? Absolutely. So I think this is all well discussed, and I think we'll anticipate that further review and discussion when we have the data before us, and then we can opine on that in a policy direction way with that data set before us. So any further people wishing to testify on this item? Any further people wishing to come forward? No one else had signed in. I will close the public hearing, and I will move a resolution adopting levying assessments and adopting the assessment role for the removal of snow and ice from public sidewalks, noting that there will be some further conversation and adjustments regarding the address at 2601 Thomas Avenue North. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in approval say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting nay. That carries, and we can now go to our last item, which is a discussion item. It's item 8 on the agenda. Orange Line construction plans, inclusion of 12th Street transit ramp.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, I'd like to introduce Steve Hay from our staff, as well as our partner, Christina Morrison from Metro Transit, to introduce this discussion item. And I'd also like to take the liberty of introducing this item myself by telling you this is an update to the municipal consent that you have already provided on the Orange Line, which is specifically to approve a layout for a vital connection of the 35W Bus Rapid Transit project on 12th Street, connecting to our downtown, ensuring reliability and predictability of the entire project.
And just to reemphasize that point, this is not a new component of the proposed line. This is a base item that we want to highlight and give particular attention to, just for that clarification. Thank you. Good morning.
Okay, good morning, Mr. Chair and committee members. Thank you. I'm Steve Hay with the Public Works Department, and I just have a few introductory slides I'm going to run through, and then I'm going to turn it over to Christina Morrison from Metro Transit. So as was just mentioned, we're here today to request an update to the previously granted municipal consent for this series of projects along I-35W, roughly between downtown and 42nd Street. And specifically, those projects are the Transit Access Project, which of course is the Orange Line stop at Lake Street, which I think you've all heard about many, many times. The Chapter 152 Bridges Project, which is replacing numerous bridges, flyovers over 35W south of downtown, and then pavement rehabilitation and addition of a managed lane. And so we're here today because we want to add a fourth project to that list, the 12th Street Transit Ramp, which then provides the connection between 35W and our transit lanes on Marquette and 2nd. So again, a little more background. This is something that's been around and has been under development for a number of years, and it goes back to Access Minneapolis and probably even earlier than that. But in Access Minneapolis, in the Downtown Action Plan back in 2007, it recommended the creation of the transit lanes on Marquette and 2nd, which then, of course, were implemented and funded through that Mark II project through the US DOT funding. And then the kind of coincidentally, and at the same time, these series of projects were being developed along I-35W, while the Orange Line project development was also proceeding along a slightly different track. Again, there's different issues are related to the Orange Line and 35W. But again, one of the things that we needed to resolve or come up with a solution to was this connection between down the Marquette and Second Transit lanes and then the 35W inside lanes where the buses will be. So sometime last year, Metro Transit convened a kind of a work team to kind of tackle this and did a little downtown access study, and the city and Metro Transit, MnDOT, and Federal Highway were all involved in that initiative. And we looked at a number of alternatives. We looked at 9th, 10th, 12th, and we did some technical analysis of all those. And I won't get into any details on that really, but it became pretty obvious that the 12th Street ramp was definitely the preferred option. It presented the least amount of obstacles and performed the best of all these alternatives that we looked at. So the study recommended that we move forward with the 12th Street Transit ramp, and now we've done the preliminary design of that facility and have come up with this layout, which we're here today to get approval of. And I'll just point out, I know it's kind of hard to see the details here, but what you see shaded in green is actually part of the projects that previously had the municipal consent. And then what you see in the other colors is part of the 12th Street ramp. And so you can see that they're joined together. For construction purposes, they'll be one project. So they're definitely integrally tied together. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to Christina, and she's going to get into a little bit more detail about the Orange Line and some other details about this project. So, Christina.
Good morning.
Thank you. I'm Christina Morrison with Metro Transit. I work in the BRT, Bus Rapid Transit Small Starts Project Office, and I'm the project manager for the Orange Line. Let's see, how do I advance slides here? I just do. Great. So I wanted to give a little bit of background context on the Orange Line. 35W is our most traveled express bus corridor in the region, and we would be constructing the Orange Line on 35W connecting Minneapolis, Richfield, Bloomington, and Burnsville. We expect that ridership on this corridor will double by 2040. And so thinking about how we accommodate that market, how we expand that market from really just what we do today is we bring a lot of people into downtown Minneapolis in the morning and take them out in the afternoon. And the Orange Line helps fill in the market by allowing people to travel in both directions all day and between stations, much like you see on the Blue Line or the Green Line in other parts of the region. People also ask, who's going to ride the Orange Line? We already have a lot of riders on 35W, and I think a lot of the benefits of this line come to people who actually live in the city, who are trying to reach suburban jobs or services, and maybe don't own a car. They can board downtown, they can board at Lake Street, 46th Street, and they can go out to those jobs and not have to own a car in order to get to jobs or services that they need every day. So in addition to the station infrastructure that we're building, a lot of this project is about delivering the service that has been expected as we've created all of these transit improvements and advantages along 35W. We'll have 10-minute service in the peak, 15-minute service in the off-peak and weekend. There's actually no weekend service on 35W today. So that will be a huge market that we're opening with the Orange Line. We'll also have a large span of service similar to other metro lines where we have 20 hours a day, 7 days a week. We're going to have a new fleet for this. So much like light rail, you'll be able to board any door. In this case, these buses will be 3-door buses. And so that's something that's relatively new to this region as well. We're currently in project development and engineering, moving into construction. The MnDOT part of this is some of the earlier parts of construction, looking to open for service in late 2019. The funding plan for the Orange Line is a mix of federal and local funding. We have a total capital cost for the project of $150 million. Of that, the 12th Street ramp and the Lake Street station are a very significant part of that capital cost. These are two very critical, very complex capital intensive pieces that we'd like to implement. We also are seeking a federal grant of about $74 million. That would come later. So typically the local money fronts the development of the project, and then the federal commitment comes at the end of engineering. And that's similar on the light rail projects as it would be here. We have secured all of our local funding with the exception of the state funding that was requested in the recent legislative session but not enacted. So we'll be coming back to the state this year to seek that remaining state share. So as Steve mentioned, so much of our work in this corridor is really between downtown and 46th Street, and it's in close coordination both in design and planning, but also in construction with MnDOT. This will all be let as a single project, which helps us really reduce the cost and the complexity of working with multiple contractors. And it also helps us reduce the construction impacts and the duration. So you can see the Lake Street Station sort of right in the middle of the MnDOT project, and then the 12th Street ramp, as Steve noted, is just at the very top into the entrance to downtown. As he noted, the origin of this project is really in that downtown transportation access plan and Access Minneapolis. I believe it actually says when the Lake Street Station is constructed, there should be provision for connecting. So there was a lot of acknowledgement, sort of foresight into the idea that the Lake Street Station and the downtown transit spine would be connected with a future transit advantage. Also recognizing that that's very complicated and difficult to do before the construction of that Lake Street Station. So this is just looking at some of the visual that Steve outlined. This is the existing running way for all of our buses on 35W. They come in on 11th Street. They run in mixed traffic, which can be sometimes problematic in the AM peak, and then they turn right onto 2nd Avenue. When they're leaving downtown, they come down Marquette, turn left onto 12th. And again, especially southbound in the PM peak, we spend a lot of time with our buses sitting on the 12th Street ramp, waiting to get onto 35W. So just showing a couple of the options that were studied. And then as he noted, just really focusing in on 12th Street as the kind of the gold standard, really the only opportunity to provide a dedicated transit lane in and out of downtown. And this is very significant. We have the volume of buses that we have here is really unparalleled to other places in the region. We have about 100 buses per peak hour, peak direction. So in the AM peak, when people are coming into downtown, there's about 100 buses an hour that will be coming on this transit ramp. And so having its own dedicated lane for those buses coming every 30 to 45 seconds is really critical. So the solution that we developed was this bidirectional ramp and contraflow lane along 12th Street. It, as I mentioned, it serves all the buses on 35W, including BRT. It creates that seamless connection that was envisioned by Access Minneapolis, and it really alleviates a pinch point where we have the most riders sitting on buses waiting to get to their destination. Here's a visualization looking sort of northwest into downtown. You can see in the top right-hand corner is the Hilton Garden Inn. It's kind of a landmark as it sits out over Highway 65. And so this is it's a relatively low impact ramp visually. It's going to look a lot like a freeway exit or entrance ramp that is there today. But the ability to bring it into the center of Highway 65 really lines us up to enter those the min-pass lanes because we don't have to do the merge. Here's just another view looking a little bit more westerly, showing how the buses would come into 12th Street on the contraflow lane northbound. And then this is just a very simplified layout of the 12th Street portion, really between Highway 65 and 3rd Avenue. You can kind of see the bus lane on the north side of the street. We are still maintaining access, left turn access from 12th Street into into 4th Avenue, I believe it is, where you can turn into the hotel there. That's something that we've talked about with both the hotel and the city, and this is sort of the resolution to maintain that access. And I believe that's all I have. Very happy to take questions.
Very good. Any questions for the presentation? Councilmember Glidden.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. So you talked about how this ramp alleviates this pinch point. Do you have any idea of kind of the order of magnitude of that? Like what's the actual time transit advantage, I think is the lingo, so we can understand that a little bit better.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, council members, I think it's there are different ways to measure that delay. So there's obviously the number of minutes where a bus might be sitting. Today maybe they're sitting on 11th Street in mixed traffic with school buses going to the convention center and regular traffic going into downtown. Those are not well represented, I think, in our traffic model. Mm-hmm. So it doesn't provide, I think, alone a justification for this. I think what we do know is that the person hours spent sitting on a bus, if we have 13,000 riders doing this every day and they're spending 10 minutes sitting on that ramp coming into downtown, certainly if you leave downtown between, let's say, 4 and 5:30, which many people do, the delay is fairly great for those bus riders. There might be, on a regular day on 35W, which we can be quite difficult. There might be 5 to 10 minutes of delay for those people sitting on buses waiting to get on at 35. So I think when you multiply that across all of the riders, it creates a pretty significant number fairly quickly. We also haven't really quantified the amount of time that is lost by buses weaving in and out. The delay that causes not only to the bus, but to other drivers and to freight that's moving through this corridor. So I don't have a perfect answer for you, but just some of the components.
Okay. Well, it's helpful to kind of hear those different elements and just know that they add up. I mean, it's similar to what's happening today over by the Lake Street staircase to the freeway, which is where the buses, of course, weave in and out. And we've talked for many, many years about how inefficient that is, as well as just the staircase elements, but for the buses themselves, that we have all this investment kind of going south of there, and it's like that investment doesn't quite make sense if then there's all this weaving and loss of the transit advantage. The other thing is you talked about the most major element from the urban partnership agreement, which we were big regional partnership to make us a very successful and competitive applicant to get that funding and allow us to improve Marquette and Second to have the dedicated bus lanes. And again, I just feel like, what a loss if we wouldn't have this critical addition to the advantage and the opportunity that is there with the investment in Marquette and Second. So thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Bender.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to clarify that as part of the municipal consent vote today, that this is separate from what would be a layout approval of the details. Having heard the presentation and the briefings beforehand, I'm very happy to support municipal consent for this addition to the project, but had some questions about the design details as those get worked out going forward.
Mr. Chair, Councilmember Bender, I'll give a short answer. We have additional plans for 12th Street. It's a local street. It's within our control. We have funds set aside specifically for protected bike lane. It's not a part of the environmental document on the 35W project. Therefore, your layout doesn't reflect it today, but we will be bringing back additional information and an additional consent on a layout for 12th Street that includes additional biking facilities.
Thank you. Any further questions, commentary regarding the presentation? See none. I will move the item, which is a passage resolution approving an update to the municipal consent for a series of projects along I-35W between the I-94 Commons and approximately 42nd Street South, commonly referred to as the I-35 Lake Street Transit Access Project, Chapter 152 Bridge Project, and the I-35W Rehabilitation Project, to now include the 12th Street Transit Ramp, a component of the planned Orange Bus Rapid Transit System. And with that, any further conversation? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Dissenting name, and that carries. We are now done with today's agenda. Thank you.